Hello, this is a message to say that a brand new Super Week is now in motion, which means from Sunday the 19th of January until Saturday the 25th of January, there will be a brand new episode released every single day. For early releases, ad-free listening, and lots of other exclusive episodes, please consider becoming a super listener for approximately 75p a week. Details are in the description.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
To the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. It's time for day 4 on this very special Manchester United Super Week. I hope that you enjoyed the episodes on Sir Matt Busby Part 1 and Part 2 and the episode on Rasmus Højlund. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a very special player from the Women's Super League. A player, of course, representing Manchester United and somebody who's already become an England legend with the Lionesses. It's, of course, no other than the fantastic Ella Toone. Before we get into this episode on Ella, a massive shout out to everybody sending me their messages via the website at www.footballforkidspodcast.com. I will get some of those onto the podcast. And if you want a shout out or a message, then you can either leave a review on Apple Podcast or Audible, or the best thing to do is just send it in via the website. So, let's get through a few of your shout-outs, messages and reviews before we get into this episode. And these ones are for those of you listening on Audible. A massive shout-out to the person who gave the podcast 5 stars and says best podcast ever. Can you please do a podcast on Christian Pulisic? I'm also a new listener, but I love the pod. Well, to the person who did that on Audible, thank you so much for listening, first of all. Thank you for giving the podcast 5 stars, and thank you for recommending Christian Pulisic to the list of episodes which I need to write. The next one says, best football podcast ever. Hi Darren, my name is Douglas, 5 stars. I listen to the podcast every morning and night. Could you do an episode on David Beckham? Lastly, can you give a shout out to my friends Aston, Bert, David, Frankie and Lucas? Well, there you go Douglas, a massive shout out to you, to all your mates and everybody that you know. And lastly, another 5-star review on Audible says, great job Darren, best podcast ever, loved every single part of it, we really enjoy listening. And that was from an anonymous user, so I don't know who that was, but thanks for taking the time and putting the effort in and helping me out with that review. Right then, let's get into this episode, shall we? About the fantastic, about the marvellous, about the terrific, about the brilliant character and footballer who is Ella Toone. Ella was born on the 2nd of September in 1999 in Greater Manchester. She grew up in a house where football was part of life. Her dad was a big football fan, and her first proper footballing experience is one that her mum hasn't forgotten. As the story goes, Ella was a newborn baby and she was taken to go watch a local football team called Hinsford. Ella was in a crisp white dress and her mum thought she looked adorable. There she was, laying in her pram, doing what babies do, which of course is sleep and poo. And her dad Nick got asked to play as a team is short of a player. His response was, "But I've got a newborn baby." Anyway, her dad ended up playing the game, and the ball went really high into the air, and guess where it landed? Yep, landed on Ella's pram. The pram went over, Ella was crying, and she had a big muddy football mark on her lovely white dress. It's safe to say her mum wasn't impressed. That was the day that her dad Nick decided that she would be a footballer. Hinsford was a place where Ella's football love really started. I mean, she did have a football land on her in the opening part of her life, but this was a place where she would go on a regular basis with her family members and play football with all of the other kids. Ella's family have been involved with the club for a long time. Her dad played for them and managed them, and her cousins for years have been playing for the team as well. Ella's life growing up was very much about football. She would stick her younger brother in goal when they were younger and then pelt shots at him. If she wasn't doing this, she would be playing football with the lads on the estate across the road from her house, until she would hear her mum shout her for tea. These were good times, and times which helped her develop into a young and enthusiastic player with bags of potential. Wherever Ella went, she would be playing football. Football was quite simply her passion. Ella went to school at Fred Longworth, where she played a lot of football, and even today she still goes back to that school and has a great relationship with many of the teachers. This school had a couple of very successful athletes that came out of it, including Ella, of course, and Olympic gold medalist Keely Hodgkinson. What about that for a pair? She grew up a massive football fan who loved football and played it as much as she possibly could, and her first proper team that she played for was Ashley and Tilsley. This was when she was around 5 or 6 years old. At this team, someone was connected in some sort of way with a staff member at the Manchester United Centre of Excellence. Ella ended up going there for trial, and she ended up staying all the way up until the under-15s. The reason that Ella left at this point wasn't because she wanted to or because she wasn't good enough, it was simply because there wasn't a women's team above that age group. So from here, she went off to play with the likes of Blackburn Rovers and Manchester City. In 2018, however, Manchester United formed a women's team, and with this happening, Ella would be returning home to the club that she loved and supported. She used to go and watch United with her dad as a youngster. She loved the club, and her favourite player was Cristiano Ronaldo. She used to watch him for hours doing all of his tricks. Ella said that when she was growing up, there wasn't female footballers on the TV. Women's football wasn't something you were able to watch easily, so her inspiration came from players like Cristiano. Ella is so very grateful for her family and the support that they have given her over the years, but in particular her parents. Apart from in COVID, her dad has never missed a match, and no matter what the time was, the day was, or what the weather was, he always got her to her training and her games. Since 2018, Ella has played over 127 games for United as a senior player. She scored cracking goals galore, and she wears the shirt with pride. The club that she supported and loved so very much growing up is now the club which she represents and plays for. Apart from lighting up football pitches for Manchester United, Ella has done some incredible things for her country of England. She played for England in the under-17s, the under-19s and the under-20s before becoming a fully fledged women's lioness, scoring a goal in the Euros final, which her team went on to win. She was also a runner-up in the Women's 2023 World Cup. What Ella Toone has done since playing football is remarkable. She's a great player who's worked so very hard, never given up, and she's inspired millions in the process. I hope that you've enjoyed listening and learning to this episode on the fantastic Ella Toone, the England Lioness and Manchester United number 7. So remember, if you know somebody who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids, and whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.